Greetings, friends. Welcome to another one of our free Friday community classes. We do these every single Friday, put them up on YouTube, exploring all kinds of different aspects of plant spirit work, green sorcery, paganism through the lens of herbalism, and all that good stuff. So, this particular class this week, we are exploring one of my favorite topics, incense, but we are really angling this particular class, this discussion on magic. So working with botanical, pure, raw, whole leaf botanical incense as a means to send out petition, magic, and transformation into the cosmos. So we're going to talk a little bit about it, but mostly I want this to be a demonstration class. So we are going to get into some hands-on practical magic here in a moment, but I want to give you just a few little bits of inspiration before we get started. First, please, to the best of your ability, work with whole herbs. Work with herbs that come from an herb shop or that come from your garden or from a gardener near you. You know, the whole point of doing it this way is getting to have an organoleptic experience with the herbs, to see their textures and their colors, to smell them, to feel them between your fingers, rather than purchasing pre-made incenses that often have glues and rubber and binders and synthetic fragrances and endocrine disruptors and all kinds of gross stuff. This particular work that I'm talking about is about burning raw herbs. They are dried, but there's nothing else in there, and combining that power of the transformative power of fire with our herbal allies to release their magic into the world. So that's where we're going to be focusing on. Now, with accessibility stuff, if all you have access to is incense cones or incense sticks or whatever, use what you have, right? If it were me in a pinch, I would rather use the contents of a tea bag for incense than rolled incense or dipped incense, especially. That stuff is generally toxic and it just doesn't smell how actual botanical incense smells. So if you're new to this, you might have some experiences, smelling these herbs in a way that you haven't smelled them before. So that's a really cool part of this too. I will be working with incense charcoals in this class, which means that the charcoal itself is hot. We'll show you here in a minute how that works. And the herbs are sprinkled onto that hot charcoal, which acts as the combustible. So you do have to have a couple pieces of gear, some supplies here, nothing too wild. And most of it is stuff that you could find around the house. So whole herbs, you're going to need some supplies. I'm going to show you mine. And other than that, like all sorceress works, this is very petitionary, right? We're going to try to avoid working with the herbs in a reductionist way, thinking in terms of this herb is good for this magic, this herb does this herb for this spell. We're going to try to leave all that aside and instead think about the plants that you have a relationship with. Think about the plants that you're close with, or the plants that for you personally relate or align to the goal that you're working on. And while you might be shuffling around in the dark a little bit here, it's better than doing it the reductionist way, where you open up a spell book and say, which herb is good for prosperity? That reductionist way of thinking is a disservice to the personhood of the plants, to the spiritual nature of the plants, and to the potential relationship that you want to foster with the plants. So it's better actually to just close that book and put it away, close the website, put it away, turn off the TikTok entirely, and get into yourself and say, when I think about prosperity, when I think about protection, when I think about love, which herbs come to mind? Which herbs are in my own language symbols, in my own folklore, my internal folklore? Or conversely, maybe you have a deep relationship with a plant already, and while none of the books will say that that plant is good for the magic you're trying to do, you're in relationship with that plant. So that plant is a good ally for whatever it is that you need to do. And so let's challenge ourselves to work this way. And you will find that, again, while it feels a little fumbly at first, while you might feel like you're faking it or lack confidence or feel like it's easier if some author or some book tells you which herb to use, in the long run, you will go deeper into your work with the plants if you do it this way. Last but not least, not all herbs are safe to burn. Think about cinnamon, ginger, cayenne, poke root, prickly ash bark, Szechuan peppers. Some of these herbs, if you were to burn them on a charcoal, especially in a closed space, you could cause yourself very serious damage. So work with the herbs that are gentle and sweet and aromatic. And if you do work with herbs that have a little heat or spiciness or are irritant, they should be 1 to 2% of the blend. Just a tiny, just bring in their spirit. That's all you need. So with that, we're going to get into how to make incense magic, and then I'm going to show you how to do the incense ritual itself. All right, so here we are with the herbs that I'm going to work with in my incense. We've got some bay laurel, some holy basil, some honeysuckle flowers, and a little bit of Opopanax resin. These are all allies that I work with a lot for prosperity and success when folks are kind of struggling to get to the next step with something, oftentimes business, but not necessarily limited to that. And again, these are plants that I have a connection with in this work. They mean something to me. You may or may not be able to find in spell books or herb books any reference to any of these herbs being used the way I'm going to work with them. But that's okay, because my relationship with them speaks to how I am going to work with them. So one of the first things that I like to do is to start kind of mingling my energy with the energy of the herbs, and at the same time to get them into a state that's going to be a little bit easier to work with incense. So if you are able and you have the bravery, you can use a mortar and pestle to powder or at least just grind your herbs up a little bit. If not, you should feel quite free to use an electric grinder. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Either way, the process is the same. I like to, you might be doing an incense with just one herb, and that's okay, or a blend, but I like to sit with each herb and really just connect momentarily with why I'm asking them to be part of this blend, why I'm invoking this plant spirit to share their virtues, their magic, and their medicine with the incense that we're about to make. Just really reminding myself why I'm calling in each of these herbs as I put them into either the grinder or, in this case, my incense mortar and pestle. I do love this tool so much. You probably have already heard me talk at length about the mortar and pestle as a tool for magic. It is unparalleled because there's so much symbolism here. I've got a whole video on this if you want to look it up. There's so much symbolism here, and again, just that ability to sit and drop into a light trance state and add your energy, your magic, to the magic of the plants. But you should not feel any hesitation to use an electric grinder, especially, if doing this kind of thing for a long time is going to be hard on you. Now I'm going to break this Opopanax up. I'm going to just give this a light crushing because I don't mind when the incense bits are big. It doesn't cause a problem the way that I do this work. And when we actually get to the ritual bit, you'll see kind of what I'm talking about. So I'm doing a very light grind here, and I could easily spend 45 minutes turning this and get this down to a powder, but it's really unnecessary as long as this is a texture that allows us to easily drop this onto a hot coal, which it really already is. We're good. So at this point we already have our powdered herbs. and this is ready to work with. So the next step here, before we get to the ritual portion, is to really just connect with what's been created here. Now, blending these up has really opened up the fragrance. Like even just sitting in this form without burning them, the scent is incredibly potent, really beautiful. And so I'm already kind of in that space where I'm connecting to the spirit of the plants, and I'm really feeling their presence here, and their fragrance and their color, and the textures, and the everything is really kind of filling the space, which is exactly what we want. But at this point, I am going to spend as much time as it takes to really get in tune with my petition, with my prayer, with my ask, and focusing less on the how and more on the what. So I'm not going to really concern myself with how things are going to come into being. I'm not going to micromanage it. Rather, I'm going to focus on where I want things to be at the end. And I'm going to trust that the plants have resources and perspectives that maybe I can't see. So I want to stay nice and open to all the possibilities. And I'm going to charge or saturate these herbs with the feelings, the emotions, with images, symbols, sounds, words, whatever feels appropriate for you. I'm going to let that flow from my body, down my arms, into my hands, and into the herbs until I feel that they are buzzing or humming with energy, with the energy of my request. And this is really where we blend our own magic with the magic of the herbs, because we do have our own magic. You know, a lot of times in this work, we tend to get in these situations where the human person becomes weak and feeble, and that the magic belongs only to the gods, only to the spirits. But we also have our own magic. And when we approach this work with that understanding and that awareness that we bring our own virtues to the table, and we're trying to merge our magic with the magic of our allies to create something that is greater than the sum of its parts, then we can really start to see some powerful things happen. So our incense is ready. We are ready to release this into the cosmos, to release this prayer into the tree of life, to ask that the plant spirits help us change the direction of growth in our life, change the way that the pattern is moving. And so we will now move over to getting a charcoal lit and tossing these herbs on the hot coal to release their energy. So as I mentioned before, there are a couple of tools you need to make this really work. The first thing is you're going to need some kind of an urn, something that is going to hold the hot coal and allow it to burn safely without breaking. So this is just a piece of ceramic. This is a ceramic urn from Shoyeido in Japan. And if I were to put a hot coal directly into this, it would probably crack. So it is filled with ash. And this is a buildup of ash from many, many incense rituals, many acts of magic. But most places that carry, these pure botanical incenses will also be able to give you a bag of starter ash so that you have something. And that ash just helps to disperse the heat so that it won't crack this. So you can use ceramic, wood, stone, metal, as long as it's heat resistant and there's ash in there. Wood is a little tricky, but it can be done as long as you have a nice buildup of ash. And there are also brass burners that have kind of a screen that allows the charcoal to breathe and allows the ash to fall through and everything to stay up on top. So you can really have a lot of fun with just collecting gear, collecting the accoutrements of incense magic. So got to have a vessel. The other thing you're going to need is charcoal, and I'm going to list my favorite down in the comments. This is a linden wood charcoal also from Shoyeido. They're pretty much my preferred incense folks, and this is a self-igniting charcoal. There's actually no propellant in this one like there is in the the round charcoal discs that you would use for hookah or a lot of other loose incenses. This is just a really beautifully compacted charcoal that will catch a flame quite quickly. And so tongs are also very helpful. If you don't have incense tongs, no worries. You can just kind of use kitchen tongs. And while I'm talking with you, I'm going to just expose this charcoal to a flame. Now, if you have, this is a little easier for me on video because I can talk and do this at the same time, but if you have a candle, that's actually easier and a little more ecologically sound to just light a candle and hold this over the candle flame. You can also set this on a burner on a stovetop and let that burner touch the charcoal for a few minutes, or of course over a natural gas flame if you have a gas stove. And what we're going for here is just kind of getting this charcoal lit up, and it doesn't take very long. This is a really good quality charcoal. We could actually probably already use this, but we're really gonna let it settle in. So I'm gonna see if I can get this going enough that I can show you that it's already started to ash over, right? And as I blow on it, you'll start to see that nice ember develop. And so once this whole brick is ashed over, the charcoal is really in a prime place. But again, it's hot enough now that we could easily do incense on it now. So I'm going to just set that really delicately right on the surface of my ash. And I'm quite confident in working with this stuff, you know, so you'll see me set it down. I know how hot it is. I know what I can get away with. But if you're new to this, please be gentle. We're just gonna kind of encourage that charcoal to get going. So I am happy with where we are here. We've got a hot coal in our urn, and we have our herbs, which we have created a blend from. Again, you can certainly use a single herb. You don't need to do a blend. There's no reason why you couldn't do this with just one ally. In fact, that tends to be what I do the most, is do this kind of an incense ritual with a single herb as a way to get to know them and to connect with them in a deeper way, to call their spirit to fill a space. If you were working with one individual herb and burned them this way, you will really, quite literally experience them filling the entire room, because as we invoke them through this method, that's what will happen. So what I'm going to show you now is, and I'm doing this class in my shop. So if I were at home where the lighting is not nearly as good, I might put quite a bit more on. But where I'm here and we open here in a couple hours, I don't want to smoke people out, so I'm not going to put quite as much. But this is an opportunity to reconnect to the herbs, kind of state that petition, that request, that goal one more time. And I like to kind of just build up the energy, build up the vision, build up the power. And once that's released onto the coal, kind of try to experience that being sent out, set free, like that the power is rising with the smoke, going into all of the directions, moving out into the cosmos. In my personal practice, I envision that this smoke is moving through the branches of the world tree, changing what needs to be changed in order to help guide my path in the direction that that I'm asking for it to go. If I was doing work with particular deities, I might imagine the smoke rising up towards them. If I was doing work with the land spirits or the spirits of place, maybe carrying this around the room and asking the spirits to accept it and to mix their magic with my magic, with the plant's magic to create whatever it is we're trying to create. but it really is just a very simple, very intuitive process. And with most of these kind of higher end charcoals, you can do what I just did and kind of keep adding, keep putting that on there until you're satisfied, and then you can save what's left or gift it or return it to the earth if you like. I've done incense rituals before that were kind of hybridy, where some of the herbs go onto the coals and then the rest get sewn into a sachet that I will then carry to connect me to the work or to the plant spirits. There is a class on my YouTube about sachet work that you can look up. So very simple, very intuitive, and a really beautiful way to call the spirits of the plants into a space, and also to release their magic in this very visceral way into the cosmos. So hopefully that was inspiring for you. We'll give you some ideas on some new ways to work with your herbal allies. If you have any questions, send me a line or comment below. If you'd like to come join us over on the Patreon, we do an advanced, longer, in-depth class every month, as well as constantly occurring particular journeys and courses. So those courses and journeys, there's a new one every single Monday, and you get access to all kinds of extra stuff. So if you want to go a little deeper into this work, there's links to all of that down in the info below. And until next week, take care.